抽面包，阿宝宝。
去问那个 bus 的东西，问完走去昨天那里有个给买一个毛绒啊。
好。
问呢？我呀。
And then your time starts.
Okay.
Show you how does it work. This bus will take you all these places of London. London Eye, Buckingham Palace, Big Ben, Westminster Abbey, Tower Bridge, Trafalgar Square, St. Paul's, Tower of London, Madame Tussauds, Harrods, every place. Any stop you like, you can get off the bus, get out, get back on the bus. Every 10-15 minutes. If you get off any place, the entrance is not included, but the museums are free with the ticket. You can go to the museums for free. And also the boat is free with the ticket also. This boat is included, it's free of charge.
So if we buy the ticket for the bus, the
boat is free.
Okay, the river is free.
It's from Big Ben to Tower Bridge, from Big Ben to Tower Bridge, and also return.
How about we should take a bus?
Yeah.
New.
Always stop
So you can do that.
Yeah.
If you just stay on the bus.
中国城。
Now, if you want to head into the river cruise, the boat tour, we're going to have that stop in about 50 minutes from now for the boat cruise. Taken over from Westminster Pier or from the Tower of London. I'm afraid all the walks have already started today. Well, the Jack the Ripper walk's going to start at 3:30. We're not going to make it there, obviously, in time. So you'll have to do the walks tomorrow. Do remember, you have the Changing the Guard walk tomorrow. That's at 10:30 from the Visitor Centre to Trafalgar Square. And that's the best way to do the Changing the Guard. The guard change is happening every other day. So it's on holidays in March. So there was no changing the guard today. You didn't miss anything. Now you could change at the stop if you wanted to go east. Military generals who most people have never heard of. You find these statues all across European cities. So it's a playful statue, been well received as well. We turn into the square itself. The square is named after an important naval battle, the Battle of Trafalgar of 1805, which was won by Admiral Horatio Nelson. He's the man who stands on top of the column to your left. From up there he's looking down towards Portsmouth Harbour, which is where his ship HMS Victory is still in port. You can still go on board that boat. On that day he led 27 British ships to victory against 33 French and Spanish. Outnumbered, but look at the centre of this relief. He's the man falling backwards here. He's falling backwards, the other sailors are catching him, one of them's holding his famous hat. We circle this roundabout and we start heading west. In the centre of the roundabout is a statue of King Charles I, on the right there. This statue marks the central point in London, which is where you measure all other cities in regards to our own. You can see he was a rather short king, Charles I. He was executed down that road on the left, Whitehall, after the Civil War. To the left, the archway built to another important monarch, Queen Victoria, the Admiralty Arch by Astor Webb. The road behind, the red carpet road, the Mall, takes you all the way down towards Buckingham Palace. It's the main ceremonial route in London, so that's where big marathons end, big marches, parades, and again, that's where the Changing the Guard will be tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock. We're going to go into Piccadilly and Mayfair now. We're going into Clubland. That's what this area of London is. Clubland filled with hundreds of private clubs. There's currently 286 private clubs in this area of London. They're called gentlemen's clubs, but they're not the seedy kind of gentlemen's club. They did only used to be for men. That's why they have that name. Most of them are open to both men and women. There are a few that are still for men. We'll pass one in a bit. But most of these buildings on the left here, these are private clubs. This one of the black flag is the IOD, Institute of Directors for Business People, to have meetings in. It's the next green building. It's far more interesting. With the lovely golden statue of Athena and the Greek frieze, that's the Athenaeum, a club for scientists, which was the first building in the world lit by electricity. That building there. Michael Faraday invented the electrical generator and he put it in his club, first of all, so it has that distinction. It's a very prestigious club. Its membership has had 52 Nobel Prize winners in 100 years. It's an amazing record for any club. This green building on the left, that's the Travellers Club, so that's for travellers and explorers. The grey building is the Reform Club for ambassadors to the United Kingdom and foreign office officials. So you've got business clubs, political, sports, science, university, fashion, anything you can imagine. If you're a car enthusiast, this club we're approaching with a blue flag on the left. That's for car enthusiasts, the Royal Automobile Society. It's one of the biggest clubs in London. It's got an Olympic-sized swimming pool in the basement of that club, just for its members. Very famous swimming pool. And another one here, this is the Oxford and Cambridge Club on the left. So you can only be a member if you went to Oxford or Cambridge University. We do have a stop here for Pall Mall. Really, if you go down any one of the side roads in this part of London, you see those buildings. As I said, there's 286 of them. There's a lot. The first palace, though, is on the left. St James's Palace, built in a red brick Tudor style in 1538 by the infamous Henry VIII. He built it for his beloved wife, Anne Boleyn, as we all know, really loved very, very much. Executed her 2 years later. Coming up St James's Street, named after the palace. Now this building here on the left, this brown brick building, that's the Colton Club, the Conservative Party Club, and it's only for men. I'm afraid that's one of the few clubs in London that's still only for men. They only allowed one woman in their entire history to be a member. Not hard to guess who. Margaret Thatcher. When she became head of the Conservative Party, they had to let her become a member. She actually became an honorary man. That's the title they gave her, honorary man. We've got Brooks Club on the left, Boodles on the right hand side. Both these clubs were founded in 1741, very old clubs, founded by the Macaronis. The Macaronis were the young men in the 18th century who had gone to live in Italy. If you could afford it, you go and live in Italy back then for a year, learn about Italian culture. When they came back to this country, they came back with a love of everything Italian. They dressed in Italian clothing, they spoke in Italian, they only ate Italian food. And when they acted like this back here in London, people thought they were silly, they made fun of them, and they named them after their favourite food, which was macaroni cheese. And that's how they got their name, Macaronis. So they started clubs so that they could hang out privately with other macaronis and people would be able to make fun of them. And that's how a lot of the clubs in London started. Last two clubs we see, the newest club in London on the left with the green lined windows, this is the Russian Club. Very wealthy Russian community in London. They wanted their own private club. That's going to open up shortly. Just turning on to Piccadilly now. Now most of the famous stores are the other way. We're going the wrong way for all the famous stores, but we've got to go this way because we're into the park. We do pass the Ritz on the left. The world famous Ritz, founded by Cesar Ritz in 1905 as the last word in luxury when it was built. All ensuite bathrooms, hot water to every bedroom. It was the first in the world for a hotel in 1905. A bit of a hot bath whenever you wanted. Today, people like to go here for two, and that was only built about a year ago. The New Zealand War Memorial, those black metal crosses rising from the hill, and the Australian one is at the opposite end of this roundabout. Now we call this roundabout Hyde Park Corner, but its real name is Wellington Place, named after the Duke of Wellington. He's most famous for defeating Napoleon. He defeated Napoleon Bonaparte in the Battle of Waterloo in 1815, one of the biggest battles in European history. It ended the French Empire and was the last of the Napoleonic Wars. Now, if you win a great battle like that against your number one enemy, you get an arch. So there's the Wellington Arch on the right hand side by Decimus Burton. The statue on top, the statue you see all across Europe, the Angel of Peace taming the horses of war. That's Europe's largest iron statue. An angel has come down from heaven to tame Europe. Europe on the war horses. European history was plagued by warfare for more than 2,000 years. There's nowhere in the world where there's been more bloodshed. Though quite fortunate, the time period in which we live hasn't been too much fighting. So we're going to have our first Hyde Park stop now. Here to the left, the official Queen's Gate entrance to the park, dedicated to Queen Elizabeth, who was the Queen Mother, and the statue of Achilles straight ahead. Again, dedicated to Wellington. That was the first statue of a naked man in London. Caused a lot of fuss when it opened up. So here's your stop. It's the next stop for the Marble Arch. That's where you can change for a lot of our other buses. To the right hand side is the Queen's most hated building, the Hilton Park Lane. It's the only building, only from that building you can way to Victoria, which is going to be our next stop. When you're at the other arch, we were speaking about the gallows, the Tyburn tree, where we used to have all those executions. Now, public executions, they were always very popular, always have been. They were banned in London 176 years ago, banned for public safety, because crowds had got so large that people were being trampled to death every time they had a hanging. So the authorities stopped them. Now, it wasn't because they realised it was barbaric or anything like that. It was because they were too popular. Escape artist in London, a working class hero, because he kept escaping from prison. He was the famous Jack in London before Jack the Ripper. And British guests will know someone who's a Jack the Lad. The Jack the Lad character, that's Jack Shepherd. He was the original one. Now, he escaped from 5 prisoners in 2 years. The last time they locked him up at Newgate Prison, which was the maximum security prison at the time. They had chained him to the floor, they had 2 guards watching him. He escaped 5 days later. He wasn't very good at remaining at leisure. He was always found drunk in a pub within a few days as well, so they always caught up to him. Eventually got around to his execution. 200,000 people turned out to see his execution, and they carried his dead body throughout London for the rest of the day, with lots of music, dancing and drinking. This means that lots of words in the English language and phrases, sayings do come from executions, the most famous being one for the road. One for the road used to mean the last drink of your life, not the last drink of the night. It was the road from the prison to the gallows. Along the route, the procession stopped outside pubs so that the men could have a final drink. Then they would stop at another pub often, and another. By the time they reached Tyburn, most of the men were so drunk they weren't standing up. They would have to be carried onto the scaffold in order to be executed, which was the point, of course. The point was to get so completely out of it you didn't really know what was going on. One for the road. By the end of the 18th century, alcohol so associated with hangings, people always woke up the day after a hanging feeling awful. Terrible, terrible headaches, and that's when people began saying that they were hungover. That's where hangover came from. Hangover, feeling terrible the day after a hanging because you drank too much alcohol. So we just come to Victoria, area of town. We'll have our stop for the station shortly. Is that Prince Charles is already the longest ever monarch in waiting in the history of the world. And no one has ever waited longer to be king than him.
What's your big
这也弄掉了吗？一起斗了。
So Victoria Station to the left hand side, we'll have our stop in a moment. It's the second busiest station in London, where the boat train used to arrive from Europe. In front of us we have the Grosvenor Gardens. Have a look at the architecture around you here. Very Haussmann architecture, Parisian architecture. Old James Bond films with Sean Connery and Roger Moore. So getting closer to the heart of our democracy, Parliament Square. This whole area of town, including Millbank, which we just passed through, this was all a big island 1,000 years ago that they called Thorney Islands. The Romans had originally built a settlement here, but it was King Edward the Confessor at the beginning of the 11th century who decided to build his new palace and his new abbey here. We're approaching the Palace of Westminster on the right, which you'll know as the Houses of Parliament, one of the world's most famous buildings, and to the left, Westminster Abbey, the Church of Royalty. So this is your stop for Parliament Square. If you're going to Westminster Abbey, Parliament, Downing Street or Churches Museum. That's all from the stop. Passing the Victoria Tower, first of all on the right, which contains all the official records of Parliament. Only the Queen could go through the entrance at the base, the Sovereign's entrance. Parliament has a history of fire, having burnt down 4 times in the last 1,000 years. Last time was in 1834, almost everything you see was built after that, except Westminster Hall, directly to the right. Westminster Hall survived the fires, it's almost 1,000 years old, that building. Steeped in British history. The trial of William Wallace took place here. And you might know from Braveheart, Guy Fawkes' trial. Guy Fawkes tried to blow the entire building up on the 5th of November 1605. That's why we celebrate fireworks night on that date. The trial of the King took place after the Civil War as well. We'll circle Parliament Square, then we'll cross over the Thames for the first time. Small white church on the left there, that's St Margaret's, so that's the parish of Parliament. Politicians do like to get married there. Royalty gets married behind in Westminster Abbey. That's where our kings and queens have been crowned for the last 1,000 years. Royal wedding 2 years ago. Kings and queens buried in the Henry VII Chapel, which is described as the most beautiful chapel in Europe. Lots of other things, people buried inside Westminster Abbey, including two of the most important scientists of history, Charles Darwin and Thomas Newton. We're back to Race Parliament again. Parliament in Neo-Gothic building. Neo-Gothic was very popular in Britain in the 19th century. As Charles Darwin did the exterior and Hughes in the interior of 1,600 Roman palace. Can't go inside Parliament, but at this time of the year it's only usually on a Saturday. Check on the website to see when it is open. The interior of Parliament really is spectacular. Hughes spent 15 years designing the interior and actually went mad by doing it. So we crossed the Thames for the first time now. The reason why London exists. Why the Romans founded the city of Londinia 2,000 years ago. It is a tidal river, so it's going down. It's going down to low tide, rises and falls about 22 feet every day. It is quite dramatic. Now we do have an important stop here. This is your stop for the river cruise, the boat tour. Remember, you have a free boat with your ticket. And also changed here for the London Eye, the London Aquarium and the London Dungeon. Once again, this is your stop for the river cruise, the boat tour. You have the free cruise with your tickets. That is this stop. And also the city of London to the right hand side. That's where we head next, is to the city.
没有到我们的饭店啊？没有经过我们饭店吗？没有，我们饭店在后面。
By George Edmund Street. His whole life wanted to build a cathedral. That's as close as he got. Doesn't really look more like a cathedral than anything else. It's a huge building, as deep as it is wide. You can go inside there, it's an open court. It's very beautiful in there. You can go see a case if you want, it is an open court. This is your stop for St. Paul's Cathedral.
跟那个法国那个好像哦。
这个是免费的，
跟法国那个好像哦，而且那个位置感觉很像马路正中间一样。
也是，
对吧？
没有，你知道，他们外国人的那个教堂啊，都是盖在那个城市最
The
高
church
的
was originally built for St. Paul around 600 AD. Again, it's burned down 4 times since then, last time being in the Great Fire of London of 1666. It was in the aftermath of that fire that Christopher Wren, an architect and scientist, walked amongst the ruins of the burnt down cathedral, found the Latin tomb. The inscription on it read Resurga, which means to rise again. Took it as a sign from this to the 17th century. Remember, coffee was popular long before tea. Tea was very expensive, from until recently, really. Coffee houses used to be where you talked politics and you did business. You had 82 coffee houses here, even in 1666, just in this square mile. The most famous coffee house was Lloyd's Coffee. It's where merchants began going to insure their boats over deals over a bit of coffee. It became so well known as this that they stopped selling coffee. They became an insurance company. Today, that's where all the gold is. Second largest gold reserve worldwide after the Federal Reserve in New York City. Ships are fired during the D-Day landings and now a museum to go on board and find out about World War II history and its duties back then. I see dragons again either side of us, so we just left the city of London. We're now in Borough. We're back in normal London. Borough famous for its food market. Better to go tomorrow. The Starwood Bridge is a bascule bridge. Bascule is the French word for a seesaw. That's the movement it makes when it opens. It used to open all the time. It used to open about 400 times a month in its heyday. Now 300 times a year. You don't get that many big ships that come this far down the river. Left, Boris Johnson, current Mayor of London. It's all built by Norman Foster. The same architects built the lovely glass skyscraper on the other side of the river, which we call the Gherkin in the city, the Swiss Re Tower. To the right hand side you have the more modern business district, which is Canary Wharf and London Docklands, where the skyscrapers are. That's the more modern area of London. Beyond those skyscrapers you have the Millennium Dome, Stratford where the Olympics was held. That's all East London, City of London Airport, that's a more modern area of town. We cross over the river, gone way back in history to the Tower of London. We're on the left, a 1,000-year-old castle built by William the Conqueror in 1066, built to intimidate and impress. Whoever controlled this castle really controlled the country for about 500 years. There's a lot to see inside. The central tower was an observatory for hundreds of years, a mint and treasury, which is where money was made.
等下你们要面对那个伦敦爱吗？还是大笨钟？先照大笨钟好不好？好。行，走。好。 麻婆豆腐、3种叉烧、3种蔬菜、羽毛茶。阿宝宝在睡觉，然后我们多多在那玩，啊，跟我奶奶。多多，啊多多，哎，刚刚很吵的那个是谁？叽里呱啦叽里呱啦的，就是这一个啊多多，一直呀找人玩的。爸爸。哎呀。塑胶厕所，塑胶隔板的，关起来。哎。伦敦爱看得到吗？啊，多多啊，看哪里啊，多多啊？